Welcome to CCE's Consumer Issues Monthly Lecture. My name is Kenneth McLaurin, the consumer educator here at CCE. Today's topic is scams concerning seniors. We have Michael Danaher, the New York State Assistant Attorney General, here to discuss this topic with you. Take it away, Mike.
Thanks, Kenneth.
You're welcome.
Welcome, everyone, to our monthly consumer issue program. As Kenneth mentioned, we're going to talk about scams that tend to affect the elderly, seniors out there. We do have to preface our remarks by saying scam artists are equal opportunity scammers. They are not necessarily limiting it to a particular demographic, but it does seem in certain circumstances that senior citizens get targeted and as well as receive requests and things over the internet or by the telephone that they seem to fall victims to more frequently than others. So we like to address those issues here out at our sessions at Cornell Cooperative Extension. And you say to yourself, why would a senior be someone who would be particularly targeted for a scam or a fraud? And I have a couple of ideas related to that, not based on any scientific study or anything, but it seems like that seniors are a vulnerable group for certain areas. Now, the first thing is that I think that everyone would agree that seniors were probably brought up at a different era than our younger people. When we sit back and we think about it, seniors that didn't have the internet. I think a lot more face-to-face conversations took place. I was just talking to a group yesterday and I said, I'll see my kids sometimes and they'll be on their cell phones and I'll say, what are you doing? And they'll say, I'm talking to someone. Well, that seems kind of strange, especially to seniors. They would think, how would you be talking to someone in that way? That's because our younger people were brought up and they always had cell phones and they always had the computer and they always had access to things that when we were younger, we didn't have. I think with that background, I can remember growing up and not locking our doors. We never locked our doors growing up. We had kids running in and out of our house, not necessarily me or my sisters, but neighbors would be running through, and likewise I'd be running through other people's houses. I know our parents would sit down at the kitchen table and carry on a conversation. People would communicate by going back and forth, face to face. A lot less of that is happening today. I think our senior citizens were brought up to in a different era where a handshake was as good as any written contract. They were taught to be polite. We enjoyed having others come over and talk. Also, senior citizens, as we age, our faculties may tend to diminish a little bit. We may not be able to remember and recall what events took place. We may get a little more confused. And most importantly, they aren't able to do the things that they used to do when they were younger. They may not be as able to get up on a ladder and clean out their eaves or to look at their roof or things like that. So we have to hire somebody to come in and do those sorts of things. Also, the seniors are the number one group who is least likely to report that they've been victimized by a fraud or a scam. So if you're a scam artist, you think, wow, what a great thing. I can go and steal something from somebody and they're not going to tell anybody about it. So that's another reason why they may be targeted. I don't know what the reason for that is. I don't know why that they may not be as willing to tell people about it. Some may view it as their one-way ticket to a nursing home. If they tell their kids that they just lost $100 to somebody who scammed them, they think that that's going to somehow reduce their autonomy. There goes the car keys. There goes my independent living. I'm going to have somebody looking over me. And when you add all those things together, you say, wow, seniors may be particularly vulnerable when it comes to scams and frauds. When I was first out speaking about this, actually I first started coming to Cornell Cooperative Extension over 18 years ago to talk about these topics. One of the big topics that I used to talk about was telemarketing fraud. I used to say that every time we used to sit down for dinner, we used to get that telephone call wanting to sell us something, wanting to convince us to do something, to claim a prize because we had won a sweepstakes. It seemed that you couldn't sit down to dinner without your telephone call being made. That's cut down somewhat because we now have the do not call list. And the do not call list allows us to put our telephone number on a do not call list. Now, I've had people say, well, that doesn't work because I still get telephone calls. There are some exceptions to the do not call list, and that is political calls is exempt, charitable solicitations are exempt, and an exemption for entities with whom we have a business relationship with. So our own credit card company could still call us. Even given those exceptions, I would still tell people that even if we receive a call, and we don't want to receive those from an exempt entity, a charity, political, or someone that we have a current relationship with, I would still encourage you to tell them, please don't call me anymore, if you don't want that. Because let's face it, let's say it's the classic calling to raise money for a charitable purpose, and you don't want to receive those telephone calls. A legitimate entity is not going to want to be wasting their time calling people who don't want to receive those telephone calls. They just don't want to waste that time. So it's been my experience that if it is in fact a legitimate charity and you ask them to please take your name off the list, they will do so. And that we still receive calls, but I think it's still a good thing to have the do not call list, because the first thing that comes to my mind, and I'm on the do not call list, that I receive an unsolicited call to buy something, a red flag immediately starts waving. Because being on the do not call list, I should not be receiving these calls. So it tells me one of two things. It tells me that there's a legitimate sales outfit out there who is calling in violation of the do not call list. Or two, it's an outright scam. So the scam artists are not deterred by the do not call list because they're scam artists to begin with. So that immediately tells me something, and I would not be as easily able to or willing to fall prey to something when I know, in fact, that I'm on the do not call list. And so that would have me hang up. But some people, seniors, may be more vulnerable to those sorts of things. So the very first thing I would encourage seniors to, if they don't want these calls, get on the do not call list. It, at the very least, markedly reduces the number of telephone calls that we do receive. And in the event that you even do receive those calls and you're on the do not call list, it tells you something right there of who it might be that's contacting you. Telephone calls still occur. I know that we, in the most recent period of time, have received a flood of telephone calls, not necessarily in violation of a do not call list or anything like that, but a scam nonetheless, in that we're receiving calls from the IRS telling us that we owe money to the IRS and you're going to be sued right away. I know I recently received one on my cell phone, and it asked me to call back a particular number. For those of you that are receiving those telephone calls, we know about it. The Attorney General's office knows about it. The federal system knows about it. And what we've been doing is we've been accumulating the telephone call numbers that people have been receiving, and we have been notifying the authorities, and that the numbers, an attempt is being made to remove those telephone numbers. So we've got a whole list of numbers, and we turn it over, and hopefully the telephone providers are going to eliminate those particular numbers as scam numbers. The other thing you have to understand is you think that the law enforcement can go find where that number is and immediately go out and arrest someone. That's not necessarily the case, because with this advanced age of technology and things, people are spoofing numbers, meaning that they're stealing the numbers, so the number that you show up on your caller ID may not in fact be where the number is from. I've heard instances where our office number has been spoofed and the IRS number has been spoofed, so that when people see the number, and if in fact you look up that number, you will find that it is an actual number that's assigned to government offices. The bottom line is, don't respond to these calls. The Internal Revenue Service does not call people and threaten them with being sued or with being arrested or anything like that. It is a complete scam. The most important thing is to disregard it, hang up, do not send any money, and do not engage with these people. Just hang up and move on. In the telemarketing realm, even if you're talking about a legitimate telemarketer, they should be aware of the do not call list, and you should not be receiving those telephone calls. And if somebody calls you, tell them, I am on the do not call list. You are not supposed to be calling me. If it is one of that circumstances where it's a legitimate telemarketing call, they will get really nervous if they're calling people in violation of the do not call list, because the Federal Trade Commission has prosecuted cases of violations of the do not call list, and the fines associated with that can be very high. So people, you can accumulate the numbers or find out who it is that's calling you and the number, and if you're on the do not call list, it can be turned over to the Federal Trade Commission to show that people are violating the do not call list. There are certain rules associated with, if you're not on the do not call list, there are certain rules associated with telemarketing calls. And one is you can't be called outside the hours of 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. So if you receive a call in the 7 in the morning or 10 at night, right there is a violation, whether they're on the do not call list or not. That's a complete violation of the telemarketing sales rule. Some people may try to say, well, I'm calling you from California, so really it's not 10 o'clock at night here, it's 7 o'clock here, so we're not in violation of the rule. Well, they are, because the rule is 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. of the location of the receiver of the telephone call. So they should not be calling you. Also, if you're not on the do not call list, if you receive a call and you ask them to not call you, they must stop calling you. Understanding that the request that you make only applies to that particular telemarketer, so the company that they're calling you on their behalf. So it could be a third-party company that gets hired by XYZ company to make telephone calls. When you ask someone to stop calling you, it only applies to that telemarketer. So XYZ company could hire another telemarketer who could still contact you. There are ways, in addition to the do not call list, to get off these telemarketing calls, and that is that telemarketers or marketing companies a lot of them are associated with this entity called the Direct Marketing Association. Direct Marketing Association is the association of direct marketers who market people and make telemarketing calls. You can contact the Direct Marketing Association to get put on their do not call list, which they will circulate to their members. Also understand that if you do buy something as a result of a telemarketing call, this is one of the rare instances, and again, it's one of those rare instances where you do have 3 business days to cancel. It's considered to be inherently a high-pressure sale when somebody is calling you at your home. So given that, it's like a door-to-door sale as well. The marketer is coming into your realm rather than you going out to them. It's considered to be a high-pressure sale. So if you are to buy something via telemarketing, you do have 3 business days to cancel. Same with a door-to-door sale. So be aware that if you do accept something and a day later you go, oh man, I should have never done that. You do have 3 business days to cancel that. I do have to give a caveat, not a caveat, but to emphasize the fact that you don't always have 3 business days to cancel in any transaction that you enter into. It just happens to be telemarketing sales, door-to-door sales are some of the rare instances where you do have 3 business days to cancel. I don't encourage you to say, well, I'll get the person off the telephone by telling them that I'll buy it and then a day later in the day I'll just cancel. Don't do it that way. If you're not going to buy, don't buy. But if you do end up buying something via a telemarketing sale or a door-to-door sale and you want to cancel, you do have 3 business days to cancel. So you should be able to get information from whomever it is of how they can be contacted so that you can contact them and let them know that you don't want to go ahead. What are some of the types of frauds and scams that are out there? Again, I mentioned the one scam that we're hearing a lot about was the IRS scam. People are receiving telephone calls telling you to either call a number back because the IRS is contacting you and they're in the final process of preparing the papers to sue you because you owe money. Disregard the call. The IRS is not going to contact you by telephone. They are not. It is a complete and utter scam. Frequently, the people you would talk to have foreign accents and they're located in different countries trying to scam you out of money. If the IRS believe that you owe them something, they always contact you in writing. Also, there's ways to look up the IRS's telephone number and address where you can reply back to them so that you know that you're at least getting back directly to the IRS. What are some other scams? In particular, what seniors can fall victim to, especially at this time of year when you frequently will be seeing hopefully the buds will be popping on trees and it'll be starting to get warmer soon. That's when we start to undertake our home improvement contracts. Roofs and driveways are particularly a problem. There has been known to have people go door to door soliciting home improvement contracts. That is a big, big problem. It's usually in the area of driveways and roofs. They'll knock on the door and they'll say, hey, we're working on a driveway job up the street or we're doing jobs in your neighborhood and we can give you a great deal. We have some leftover blacktop in the back of our truck. Go the opposite way. Run away from that. Do not agree to those sorts of things. I can guarantee you that you will end up paying more for the job than you could have if you had gone to a local, legitimate driveway paver, and you're going to get an inferior quality job. We see it happen all the time. I have a stack of complaints that come in at some point in time that somebody went through the neighborhood going door to door, and lots of times it's in rural areas, and my driveway was not really good and I just didn't have the opportunity to bring somebody in to give me an estimate, and these people came by and they said they'd give me a great price, and They never gave me a written contract ahead of time, which is a complete no-no. I didn't have an opportunity to investigate what the prices are. And then they gave me a bill for a sum of money that I could not believe. But I felt that because I told them it was okay to do, that I had no other option but to pay them. You do not. If somebody comes to your door offering to fix your roof, offering to fix your driveway, do not follow through on it. There are all kinds of problems associated with it. Whenever you have someone who is going to do a home improvement job, or you yourself need to undertake a home improvement job, we need to be good consumers. And how would a good consumer act in that situation? Well, if your driveway is messed up, you have to have it redone. What would a good consumer do? Well, a good consumer would go out and investigate and get references. They'd get referrals from others who maybe had used a service. They'll check throughout the community to see who the reputable contractors are to do those sorts of things. You would get an estimate ahead of time. How much is it per square foot? How much is the total job going to be? The consumer can go out and measure it themselves and measure square feet. It's just length times width. And I actually had several years ago, a home improvement contractor who was going door to door, shyster as far as I was concerned. And I said to them, well, look you went out and did this job, and you said it was going to be X number of dollars a square foot. Well, my investigator went out and measured, and you charged for double the square footage. And you know what his response to me was? His response to me was, yeah, but this was a thicker driveway, and so we had to put more material down. That's why it was more expensive. And I said, you were billing by square footage, not cubic feet. You weren't billing by length times width times depth. You had quoted a price on length times width. You can't thereafter start charging people more money than what you originally had quoted them, especially given the fact that you never advised them of any of this. So you have to be a good consumer. It's usually billed or quoted on a square footage basis, and the legitimate companies will tell you right off the bat before you sign on how many square feet it is. And you can double check that. What we're seeing lots of times with these ones who go door to door, they quote a square footage price without giving you a total, and then afterwards charging you so much more, thinking that you're never going to go out and measure it, and not being able to estimate the quality of the work that's being performed. The important thing is get estimates ahead of time, get references ahead of time. Having your driveway put down that day is not a necessity. The price you're being quoted is frequently more than what a reputable local contractor will actually charge. And the person will say to you, hey, we're going to give you a really good price. We normally charge you $5 a square foot, but we'll only charge you $4 a square foot. You may go out and find out that the reputable contractors actually only charge $2 a square foot or $1.50 a square foot. Whatever it is, go out, get estimates. That's the best way to handle it, and you won't be falling victim to frauds or scams. Another big fraud or scam that's out there are sweepstakes frauds. People are getting telephone calls saying, congratulations, you won, or receive something in the mail saying, congratulations, you just won. The rule for sweepstakes is you never spend money to receive money in any fashion whatsoever. So the example I use is if you win the New York State Lottery, a legitimate lottery, or the Powerball or whatever, and you stand up with the lottery people with a big smile on your face, and you have that big cardboard check that they always have and has your name on it and has $13 million that you just won. Do you think that you can take that check, that big cardboard check, go down to your bank and hand it over to the teller and say, hey, can you put this $13 million in my account? No, that's not how it works. You don't receive $13 million. First of all, if you take it as a lump sum, you don't receive the $13 million. You receive somewhat less than $13 million. And then the taxes get taken off of the top. So you get a net check later on. You don't get to take that $13 million. So when somebody says that you won $25 million, but in order to claim your prize, you have to send money in to claim the winnings, that's not how it works. It comes off the top of your winnings. So as soon as someone says to you, hey, you have to send in money to claim a prize, it is not legitimate. The other thing is you have to sit back and say, the very first thing is, well, how would a good consumer respond to this sort of thing? Well, a good consumer would first say to themselves, did I ever enter? So you won a prize, but you never entered it to begin with. So that should tell you something right there. The way I like to look at it is think of yourself, if somebody were to do that to you and say, hey, I won. Think of it as if your friend came to you and said, guess what? I received a telephone call, or I received this letter in the mail, and it says that I won $13 million. How would you respond to that person? You would sit back as the person with common sense and say, wait a second here. Did you ever enter that lottery, sweepstakes, or whatever it is? Or, boy, that sounds too good to be true. Do you really think that's legitimate? Especially when they're asking you to send in money related to the claiming the prize. It just doesn't seem to make sense. When we find out that we've supposedly won something in the mail, and I actually have an example that I brought with me today, a letter from someone saying that they had won a prize. They won a prize, congratulations. In this particular one, it was the person had won $125,000. And you read through it and you say, wow, I won it, and it's my final notice. It's always your final notice because they want you to decide on it quickly. You read through it, it says, well, your taxes associated with this claiming of this prize is $2,875. The first thing is, it says, you won $125,000, and your taxes are $2,875. If you won a prize of $125,000, I can guarantee you the taxes associated with that are going to be significantly more than $2,875. That's the first thing. The second thing is that you won't have to, if you win a prize, spend money to receive the money. The money should be any fees should be taken off the top. The third is that what they do is they then send you, attached to it, a check. And usually the check is for more than what they're asking for. In this case, it was $4,875, $2,000 more than the $2,875 they're claiming that you owe in taxes. And it tells you to deposit this check in your account, and within a day or so, your account, the check will have cleared, and your account will be $4,875 higher. What we'll then ask you to do is withdraw $2,875 and Western Union that money to me. Well, you'll see if you deposit this check, you'll see within a day or two that your account goes up by $4,875. You'll think it is cleared because the money's available in your bank. That is not the case. What the rule is when you deposit a check, you have the right to start using the funds represented by that check by midnight of the day following the day that you deposit it. That is what is referred to as a provisional credit. What that means is you have use of the funds even though it hasn't cleared yet. It could take, I've talked to some bank people, it could take up to 2 weeks for this check to actually wind its way through and clear, or in this case, not clear. and you be notified of it. But in the meantime, you've had access to that money. And what the scam artists are hoping that you'll do is, you'll think that when that money shows up in the account that it's cleared. So you'll take $2,875 out of your account, run down to a Western Union branch, and wire the money out. Because once you wire the money out, the cash is gone. It's clear, it's gone. There's no way of getting that back. And what ends up happening sometime later, or a few days later, you get notice that that check bounced that you deposited. This check you bounced. And as a result, the bank will then say to you, I want that $2,875 that you took out of your account, I want that back. And they have every right to do that, because we are responsible for every check that we deposit. If it turns out that it's bad, we have to make it good ourselves. And we have just been ripped off by $2,875. So what I would tell you is, if you receive something in the mail, it says, congratulations, you won. Here's a little bit of an advance on your winnings to help pay the fees. Deposit in your account. That is a classic scam. Just rip it up, throw it away. I have dozens of examples of these in my office. I have American Express traveler's checks that are bogus. I have Walmart money orders that are bogus. I have all kinds of checks that are bogus that were sent to me throughout the years. It is a scam. Don't fall for it. You can just destroy it. Do not deposit the check, and by all means, don't send any money out to claim any particular prize. It's all a scam. Other things that we're hearing about with respect to seniors, some of you may have gotten that call. That is the grandparent scam. Grandparent scam, where senior citizens receives a telephone call. Grandpa, it's your favorite grandson. And then Grandpa says, oh, Tom? Yeah, Tom. I'm calling you. I need some money. There could be any types of excuse associated with it. I've heard excuses where Tom and some friends supposedly went to Canada, and one of the friends had drugs on them that Tom didn't know about and got in trouble and got arrested and needs money to bail him out, and saying, oh, Tom saying, you know, my parents will really be upset if they hear about this. That's why I'm calling you, Grandpa. Would you please wire out money? That is, regardless of the fact that the person may sound like Tom, it is a scam. Do not send out money. Call your son or daughter saying that their child, your grandson, you received a telephone call from, and I will tell you that that's happened before, where the son or daughter says, Tom's sitting right here in the room with me. He's not in Canada or wherever in trouble and needing any funds. Don't fall for that. It's been around a while. There are people who are calling, saying that you've been in, that you've won a prize or something, or that you owe money for something. People don't do that, so those are particular scams. Another one is investments. There are all types of investment frauds that are out there, where people are receiving a call, giving you the opportunity to get in the initial public offering, the IPO, and you get in on the ground floor, and this stock that's $2.50 a share is expected to go up to $8.50 a share as soon as the announcement gets made of some great thing, and that you stand to double your money or quadruple your money in a short period of time, and trying to get you to invest. These are things called pump and dump schemes, meaning they try to, it may actually be a legitimate stock, but it's a stock that's trading at very low numbers. It may not even be on a public stock exchange. And what they're hoping to do is to get you to buy, you and others that fall victim to the scam, to buy it at $1.50 a share, to hopefully bump the share price up to $2.50 because of all these people that are buying. And then the scam artists who also own stock will sell theirs at $2.50 a share so they can dump their stock, they can pump the price up, sell their shares at the higher price, meaning dump them on the market, dump it on the innocent victims, and when in fact the price of the stock would go right back down to where it was before. All of a sudden people will be losing out. Now there's another scam, well, to step back to that one. If you're getting involved in investments and things, only invest with reputable financial people and financial advisors, reputable traders. Don't be hoodwinked into somebody calling you on the telephone. When you fall back on it, we act like reasonable consumers. A reasonable consumer is not going to invest in that sort of way. Identity theft is a big problem now. It is happening all the time. I know senior citizens, when I came out and spoke 15 years ago about this sort of thing, and I asked how many seniors in the audience have computers or are on computers, hardly anybody would have raised their hand. Now I go and I do that, and most people are now involved in the internet. They're doing emails, and they're getting on Facebook, and they're communicating on social, Twitter, and all those sorts of things. People have to understand that although the internet is a wonderful thing, it's also ripe for use by scam artists. People are becoming very comfortable in buying things online using eBay. So they're using social network sites where they're putting out information and conversing with people on social network. And then they're also using the internet to buy and sell things. There's a website called Craigslist that a lot of people are becoming comfortable with selling things and buying things. You really have to be a good consumer when it comes to using these internet sites. There are a lot of scams out there. There are so many that it is impossible to describe them all. But some examples are people are using Craigslist or other sites to list things for sale. And they're being contacted by buyers. Well, I will tell you, if you're going to sell something on one of these sites, make sure that you only sell it to someone who's local and only sell it to someone who's willing to come and pick it up. Because we've seen all types of scams where you get contacted where somebody wants to buy it, and they'll send you, we'll fall back to what we talked about earlier, a fake check. You don't know that it's fake. They'll ask you to deposit the funds. Usually the check is more than what the item is that you're selling. And they say, oh, well, just deposit the check. Keep for the item that we're buying. We'll make arrangements to pick it up. And keep a little extra for yourself for having to ship it out and your inconvenience in handling it this. And then whatever's left over of that money, just send it back to me. Wire it back. Well, that's the typical scam where they send you a fake check, they ask you to wire out some money, and then you do that before the check is cleared or not cleared, and you find shortly thereafter that it is an illegitimate check. In other words, it bounces. So, yeah, you can use these things, use these internet sites, but be very, very careful. And I would encourage you, if you were selling or buying something, only do it locally. Because that way, at least you can go to a physical residence, see the item, rather than buying it sight unseen. You can pick it up and walk away with it and pay for it. Social media, be very, very careful about what information you post. Stay away from posting any personal information about yourself, where you live, what you do, where you work, where you bank. All of those things. Be very careful, because there are people out there that are accessing this information, and it could prove to be a scam. Be very careful on the internet when you're buying things. Make sure you know who you're dealing with. Make sure you only use reputable companies. Try and get information about where that company has a physical location. Try to get data or information about where they may have a store or their business. Maybe check into them to see if they're legitimate. If you use PINs and passwords, I know especially the senior citizens are hesitant to create passwords that they can't remember later on. So one of our big vulnerabilities in using the internet are weak PINs and passwords. The best passwords you can use are those that are a combination of capital letters, regular letters, numbers, and symbols, and also to intermix those. In other words, don't use common words or names of things. Intermix numbers and symbols in between letters. Randomly select letters. And I understand it's very difficult to remember these PINs and passwords, but the ones that are hard to remember are usually the best ones to use. Write them down. Do not include them in your computer. Write them on a separate page that you keep in your private records so that if you do have to look it up, you have access to it. The other thing is on your most important things, your bank accounts, your credit card accounts, or any things that you use online, keep those passwords separate from other passwords. Do not intermix passwords, because if you use the same password for everything and you never change it, if somebody gets their hands on it, you have just given them the golden key. So make sure that you keep passwords separate. I do know how difficult that is sometimes, but make sure that you do that. There are all types of scams and frauds that are out there. Seniors seem to fall victim to some of those with more frequency. However, we're all vulnerable to those things. So the best word of advice that I can give you is that you be a good consumer. That if something sounds too good to be true, it is. And don't follow up with those sorts of things. Again, step back. If it sounds too good to be true, don't follow through with it. If you ever have a problem with a scam or a fraud, you can feel free to contact my office, the New York State Attorney General's office. You can just look us up and contact us. And we would be glad to give you consumer information related to that. Also, I know that Cornell Cooperative Extension has some valuable information for people. Lastly, I would like to encourage all of you to come down and join us for the consumer issue sessions that we have here. We try to answer questions, give out information that's available to all people. And again, if you contact us, we'd be glad to give that information. So please come back and visit us sometime. We'd be glad to have you come down. And it makes for a lively session when we have people asking questions and raising ideas and maybe giving me ideas of things to talk about that I may not have thought of. So again, I'll pass it back to Kenneth, and thank you very much.
We'd love for you to come down and be a part of this as it's happening live every second Thursday here at CCE Tompkins, 615 Willow Ave, Ithaca, New York, 11 a.m. Have a good evening, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Thank you.